Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stacey YouTube channel or the podcast, depending on where you're listening to this. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by Jules from Under the Abbey Stand, Cambridge United fan podcaster. And we are looking ahead to the weekend's game away at Cambridge. One of us probably with a little bit more trepidation than the other one. But how are we doing? You all right, Jules?
I'm good, mate. You find me suitably miserable and depressed for bottom of the league at the end of September. But it's lovely to speak to you regardless, mate.
I appreciate that. So, yeah, we'll just rip the plaster off. We'll go straight away.
No, let's not. Let's talk about something else.
It's been a rough start, hasn't it? I mean, you currently sat, as you say, rooted at the bottom of the table, 6 games in, 1 point. There is something that we will touch on in a little bit that's a slight positive. But, I mean, I suppose I could start with what do you think's gone wrong?
Well, it's you've summarised it pretty well. The situation, the facts are the fact, and it's hard to get away from that. But funnily enough, I don't think it actually tells the full story. I think the biggest thing that's gone wrong, in my opinion, and it does depend who you ask, is our recruitment. And our recruitment has been a problem for many years, and it's sort of papered over a few cracks. There's been a few seasons where a couple of seasons ago, I don't know if many of your supporters remember, we saved ourselves by the skin of our teeth on the last day of the season. We absolutely should have gone down. Miraculous run of form in April. But, 46 game season, you deserve to stay up after 46 games, right? But our recruitment that year, the summer after that, and this summer just gone, have been just not up to scratch. This summer particularly, it's really been laid bare because we've got Gary Monk in charge, who is probably a name that everyone's going to know. And Monk came in at a point last season where he was thrown a real hospital pass. Neil Harris took over from Mark Bonner, who'd been here for 4 years. So I'm sure a lot of your listeners will probably remember the name from various encounters. Neil Harris came in. It was a big appointment considering you're replacing a club legend after 4 years who'd sort of stabilised us in League One. Neil Harris did a brilliant job, to be honest with you. In the short time he was here, he did a brilliant job. He was the perfect guy. We were coasting. We'd been absolutely fine if he'd have stayed. But at the drop of a hat, he went back to Millwall. And it left the club in a situation where literally overnight they had to go out and find a manager. And we were in this precarious little situation where we hadn't quite done enough, but we were probably all right. We had a few tough fixtures. Then you've suddenly, everything just sort of up in the air. Our star striker, Lyle Taylor, got injured at the time. Lyle Taylor, star striker, got injured for a couple of months. And Gary Monk was the guy they eventually chose to come in. Monk won 2 games over Easter. It was the only 2 games. It's actually the only 2 games he's won as Cambridge United boss in 20, right? So his win rate is 10%. The facts are the facts, right? It reads badly, but he kept us up, and it was a proper hospital pass. He made us hard to beat, and he kept us up. He did the job, and then there was this sort of refresh this summer, right? Let's give him the summer, recruit the team around him, and he wants to play football his way, which is ball on the deck, keep possession, and try and be a fun, creative, attacking team. We've seen that come through, but the recruitment just hasn't matched up to what Gary Monk's wanted to do. So this summer, the two things it's just the disconnect between them have been so clear and obvious to see. And it's left us in this situation where now, basically, I'll be honest, if not to skip ahead, but he's got 2 home games in a row, Lincoln and Rotherham. I think if he doesn't win at the very least one of them, the only thing that can change is him. And I personally don't put a lot of blame at his doorstep. So yeah, quite a long answer to a question. Obviously, there's a lot of things that contribute to it. But weirdly, for us, Gary Monk actually hasn't been one of them.
Okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, you say about the recruitment, I've gone through the transfers that have come in and obviously those that have gone out as well. You mentioned Lyle Taylor there, going over to Colchester. It's one of those, I think, Lincoln fans kept a little bit of an eye on Colchester with the link to the Cowleys, I think, and seeing some of the signings that they made. We were very heavily linked with Lyle Taylor when they were here. So I think maybe they kept an interest and he went over there. But I mean, the incomings that I can see suggests that they are kind of all free transfers and loan transfers that have come in.
Except Ryan Loft, who we signed on a 4-year deal, and he hasn't played a minute for us yet, which, okay, granted, isn't his fault. But I've never seen a player arrive at a football club with such bad reviews from his former clubs. Port Vale fans just going, how did we sell him? That's incredible. So like, yeah, not the best sort of reputation that he's come with.
Yeah, I mean, are there any that have come in that you've seen something of that you think, oh, hang on, we might have got something here?
Yeah, and you know when your cards are down, Shane Lavery and Josh Stokes, two brilliant. They've done brilliantly, both injured for 2 months now. So it's like when it rains, it pours, right? It's like we played really well at the Blackpool game, which is the one that we've got. We were 4-1 down in that game. And we did brilliantly to come back. We actually should have won it. We played so well that afternoon. I know that sounds weird. I mean, in patches, we played obviously really poorly to be 4-1 down. But in general, to see the spirit and the sort of togetherness that it took to come back. And Lavery was right at the heart of that. And Stokes made his debut that afternoon. And then every game since then, they've been the two real bright sparks. Lavery's got a lot of experience at this level, but he's still quite a young guy, and he's really energetic up top. Put loads of pressure on centre backs. Once he scored the first, you could tell the confidence came back to him. And Josh Stokes obviously had an amazing season at Aldershot last year. We've got him on loan from Bristol City, so he came really highly rated, and it was just the perfect step up for him. So yeah, they're both out, and that's just like, you know, when your luck's down. Then this that again is no one's fault. That's not the recruitment team's fault. They recruited two good footballers there, but I would say their success rate has been roughly 2-3 out of 12, which is it's just not good enough, right? Especially when the margins are so small when you're a small club in this league, as we are and always have been. And this year, as I'm sure you've spoken about plenty of times, the league is so strong every way you turn. I mean, even us, to be honest, like us being the worst team in the league, which obviously we are, like we still play some decent stuff. I'd still say we're a better team than Carlisle last year, weirdly. And that sort of tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, so I mean, have you been impacted in the same way with people going out? Obviously, we've mentioned Taylor, but anybody else that's departed that you think it's could have done with them this season?
Not massively, to be honest. It's if anything, it's the opposite. We retained a few players that I think didn't really have much of an impact last year. I'm thinking about Salik Kaikai and Elias Kachunga, who are names that, you know, people listening will recognise. People who have been around League One and even the Championship, even the Premier League for Kachunga. And they're likeable guys, but they just don't seem to have much of an impact on the game. And it's like, we're not talking about just over the course of 6 games. We're talking about over the course of like 50 games now. And I just think it was the perfect summer for a total refresh. Put your eggs in the Monk basket. If he's your guy, he's your guy, and really go after the players that he wanted. And I just think there was that disconnect, like I'm talking about, and that comes back to the people that we retain. So if anything, some of our higher earners like Jordan Cousins, even Michael Morrison's not getting a game this year. I think we could have just cleared shop a bit better and backed ourselves to recruit a bit of what Burton have done, who I know they also haven't won a game yet, so it's probably not the best example. But if you see what I mean, I think we needed that sort of summer a bit more. And we sort of ended up somewhere halfway, which is like players that Monk doesn't quite want, but players that are on high wages, so we can't go and sign any other players that he wants. So it's sort of, there isn't, to answer your question, I don't think there's anyone from last season that we let go. Certainly not Lyle Taylor. My God, that relationship we got warned by every single fan. Like, either you love him or you hate him. Wimbledon fans, Wickham fans, Forest fans, Charlton fans especially. And we were like, no, he's brilliant. He's scoring goals for us. And then by the end of it, he's like flipping the bird to all our fans and like,
oh, wow.
yeah. He's a nightmare. But do you know what? His goals kept us up. So
yeah,
fair play.
I think that's it, isn't it? Sometimes you almost accept those loose cannons if they're doing the right things for you.
Yeah.
But okay, let's move on to the pitch then, and we'll go through a couple of bits. Obviously, you've mentioned there the Blackpool game. As somebody on the outside looking at that game, and a few of the other games that you've had, you kind of look at them and go, they don't seem to be short of goals too much. But obviously, not having won a game, it looks like defensively that's where the problems are lying at the minute.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there something that you can look at it and go, okay, you can see the positives and what you're trying to do?
Definitely. I think if we'd have been speaking this time last week before the Wickham game, if you looked at all the underlying numbers, which obviously, depending on what sort of football fan you are, depends how much you want to look at that part of the puzzle of a good football team. But they obviously tell you a story. If you looked at possession, XG conceded, passing accuracy, like every single one, we were mid-table between 10th and 13th. The only one that we were anywhere in the bottom four for was the one that mattered, which is points. Every single stat, we were mid-table team, so we were operating well. We were having more possession than I've ever seen a Cambridge United team have. We were creating chances, like so many chances. We were missing a striker to really tuck him away, because Lavery plays slightly off a striker. He's not an out-and-out number 9. So he was, like I say, brilliant. No problem with Lavery. But we were just missing a proper number 9 in that period. Against Wycombe, we sort of went backwards a little bit. Those stats have sort of regressed back to the mean a little bit, so a bit closer to that bottom 4 zone. Still not bottom of the table in that respect. So that's definitely a positive. The number 9 we'd been waiting all summer for. We'd had rumours with Assombalonga, Scott Hogan, Connor Wickham, Connor Washington, all these big names. A lot of people with links to Monk, Dwight Gale, big links with Dwight Gale. And we end up with Dan and Lunderloo on loan. And it's like, fair play to Dan, yeah, he started twice and he scored twice. So I'll take that as a positive. He scored last week. He's a big lad, really, really well taken goal. He offers a presence of some sort. So I'm not writing him off. But it says a lot about the sort of summer where, we hadn't got a win yet. And we'd been playing this really decent stuff. Everyone was really behind the way we were trying to approach the game. And it just felt like the missing piece of the puzzle. And you have all these rumours, and then that comes along. And it's like a guy who's, scored no more than 4 goals in any season. Last season, he played like 26 times for Bolton, who finished 3rd. And he scored once. And it's like, sorry for swearing. It's either guy, like, it's a bit frustrating. So the positives are, look, I think we've been playing some decent football that if it were to click, I think that win isn't far away. But the problem is our time is running out, and the mood and the confidence around the place is week by week going in the wrong direction. So Monk's got a couple of home games to hope that his luck finally clicks, because it hasn't at all so far. And yeah, fingers crossed, I guess, from our perspective.
No, that's fine. I mean, you mentioned Dan and Underloo there. Like he was obviously on loan at Lincoln.
Of course he was.
Seasons ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was probably an accurate summation there. He didn't exactly set the world on fire when he was with us either. So,
well, someone said he scored last week, and someone said, judging by his career stats so far, or his average goals per game, the next goal we can expect him to score will be February. So that tells you everything you need to know about Dan and Underloo's records.
Well, he is a former Lincoln City player, so there is a very high chance that he'll score on Saturday. So,
yeah, there we go.
That's how that one goes. So, I mean, again, looking at stuff, you seemingly sort of setting up in a 3-4-2-1. From what I can see so far, is that about right? And how do you, is there much flexibility in the way that you guys set up? What sort of can we be looking forward to from Cambridge on Saturday?
Yeah, it's always that sort of, I'd call it 3-4-2-1, or he's always wanted to play 2 strikers. That was always the plan. And the moment he had, I think, Lunderloo and Lavery must have played 3 minutes together before Lavery got injured against Mansfield, which is a shame. Again, you luck when your luck's out. So it's either a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2 if he maybe plays young Brandon and Joku up there as a second striker. But I'd imagine it's probably a 3-4-2-1. The wing backs have a big part to play in the game. They play really, really high, especially if it's either Manny Longello or Liam Bennett. They'd play either left wing back or right wing back. I can't imagine he doesn't like playing them both, because they're very attack minded. And I mean, you only have to look at the amount of goals we conceded to know that he's a bit more cautious than that. He likes to play the ball on the ground. Like, honestly, it's if we play the sort of stuff that the majority of the games we played this season, we will create chances. That's the one thing I can assure you. I don't back us to put them away, and I back us to concede a few. I'm not saying we'll win the game, but we do play some pretty entertaining stuff. Like, it's as good as I've ever seen United teams play. So it's they're fearless on the ball a lot of the time, or they're clearly instructed to take risks. And yeah, it's the 2 that play behind the striker, or in his ideal world, I think are 1. He has a really free role. So he was playing Stokes there. I imagine he'll play young Dan Barton, who's been one of the real positives of the season, came through our academy and as sort of out of nowhere. When you get an academy player that's not really spoken about, and then they just get a chance in the cup, and he just took it both hands. He's been brilliant all season. Every time he's had it, he's the one player opposition fans have gone, God, he's a real handful. Really small, diminutive, tiny little guy. but he's properly quality on the ball. Really good technical little player. So he's one to watch out for. And yeah, the system is that the two, Corey Smith and normally someone like a lad called James Brophy, they're the ones that are supposed to keep the ball in the middle of the park, and they're normally quite rigid in where they play. But the wing backs and the one behind the striker are the more sort of fluid ones in the system.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, let's excuse me. Let's look ahead to it. I mean, have you seen much of the Imps so far this season? Have you seen anything outside of results and anything that you kind of think, oh, hang on a minute, they might be doing something, or any players caught your eye from the Lincoln side?
Well, not so much this season, to be honest, but you're the sort of the end of season form from last year, and I mean, I do remember you beating us 5. Was it 5 or 6? I can't remember. 6, wasn't it? It was a lot. I don't know.
It was a few, yeah.
It was a lot. Yeah, absolutely. And that was Monk's second game in charge. But in the little spell before he'd really had, I don't think he'd had a day on the training pitch by that point. Because he came on the Friday, drew at Northampton on the Sunday, and then we come to you a lot on the Tuesday. So, maybe a day or two.
It was 6, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was 6, was it? Thanks.
Yeah,
yeah, because his aggregate score first week, Tuesday, Saturday was 11-1. We lost because we lost 4-0 on the Saturday after. So, Monk's form at United really hasn't been as positive as a lot of people are probably getting from what I'm saying. But yeah, that form at the end of last season is obviously still front and center of my mind, and that scoreline. So nothing so much this season. Again, I talk about, this is outside looking in, I talk about recruitment for us, and I look at you guys and think of like the lad you got. Is it Erhan? I never know how to say his name.
Yeah.
Erhan, sorry. And I think like players like that, like why aren't we going out and trying to find players like this, like unearth a gem like that in Ireland? I know you do a lot of scouting in Ireland as well, don't you? And like thinking outside the box. We go and get some journeyman on the way down from the Championship who couldn't give a anyway, I won't swear again about playing for Cambridge United, and you want to go and get someone who like has a bit of heart and a bit of quality. So yeah, I'm really impressed by the way from the outside what Skubala's done at Lincoln, and I fully expect you're the perfect example of why the league's so good. Yourselves and Lincoln, Wickham are two teams that will probably finish mid-table in my opinion, but are probably way better than that any other season in League One. It's not to say you're a bad side, it's just how can we cope with this division? It's just like,
yeah, it's mad, isn't it? I mean, like, yeah, we've had the discussions around some of the amounts of money that have been thrown around in the division this season so far. It is absolutely crazy. We're hopeful, that we're going to be able to build on last year, but I think the majority of us are expecting an upper mid-table finish on that one.
Yeah.
So, right, it's probably going to be the point at which I'm going to just inflict a little bit more pain, but let's have a conversation. Let's get a prediction out for the weekend. I mean, you've said obviously there's some positive signs coming out at the moment. Where our form at the minute is kind of okay. We had a bit of a dull game on Saturday against Wigan, so I think there's probably a few people expecting a resurgent performance from the Imps on Saturday. So how do you see it going, first and foremost?
Well, let me tell you an interesting little thing, that Lincoln at home for us has been the final nail in the coffin for 2 of our previous 3 managers. Both Mark Bonner left the night after you beat us 3-0 on Tuesday at our place last year, and Sean Derry a few years ago. We drew 0-0 on a Friday, I think, or maybe you actually must have beaten us 1-0. Can't remember the score. So it's been the last game for 2 of our last 3 managers. I'm not expecting the same if we lose on Saturday, unless we were to lose really heavily. But I have to say, as much as there's all those positives, I just think our squad's now also too thin as well as too weak. I just think that, when you just feel the mood around the club's gone in the wrong direction, I wouldn't be surprised if we got something from it because of the positives I've mentioned, but I can't, having seen every game this year, I can't sit here and predict anything other than I'd go a 2-0 Lincoln win, to be honest. So, but I sit more on the more critical side of the fence. So you'll find some United fans who will feel fairly confident going into it, which is a weird thing to say, bottom of the league. And there has been those little silver linings, but I just think you're probably too strong, and you'll probably just go 1-0 up inside 10 minutes like everyone's done, and that'll probably be it. So good luck. Hope you have a good day.
I mean, the thing is, you say, that there is a reason to be positive at the moment. If the stats are skewing that way, then something's going to have to click at some point, and then they will start to make sense and actually reflecting things, I'd imagine. So,
We hope so. I hope for
yeah.
your sake it's not Saturday, because you'll feel so frustrated to come to the bottom of the league and it be the game that click when it should have clicked 2 weeks ago.
Well, I was going to say, having said that, I'm going to go for 3-0 Lincoln. I think it's going to be I think we're probably going to bounce back after a bit of a turgid performance. Well, turgid is probably the harshest word for it, but it was a stalemate on Saturday.
Uninspiring is maybe the word you're looking for.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
it was two similar teams cancelling each other out essentially.
Yeah.
So, right. Well, I think that's probably going to do us for the preview. Thanks for joining me, Jules. Really do appreciate it, mate. So as we always do, 20 seconds or so, floor's yours to promote yourself and let people know where they can find some more of your stuff.
Of course. Well, if anyone needs the counterbalance to probably the positivity going on in the Lincoln pods, you can find a nice dose of weekly depression twice a week at Abbey Stand Pod on X and Under the Abbey Stand on Substack and Instagram, and on Spotify. Obviously, it's just Under the Abbey Stand. So yeah.
Great stuff. Well, again, really appreciate you coming on, mate. It's been good. Hopefully, we'll
hopefully see you next year.
I'll say we'll hopefully see you staying up, and we wish you all the best for the season, of course, after Saturday. But
of course, nice one, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Right. Well, we'll see you next time, guys. Thank you very much. Until next time, up the Imps.
Lincoln City are the team, the Reds is their name. Stinsel Bank is their home ground, and football is their game. So come and cheer them on, you lads, support them all the way. Oh, 'tis hardly life for the red and white, the Imps are here to stay. Oh.